Hello, everyone. We will be starting shortly. We are so glad that you are enthusiastic and that you have joined early, but we are going to be starting at 10 o'clock. We just wanted to make sure that you could hear the sound clearly. If you can hear the sound, just type yes in the chat. And I know that some of you were checking if we are still here. Yes, excellent. You can hear the sound. Wonderful. We will see you shortly.
Testing, testing. Simon, it's buzzing here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
The camera cannot go on, Simon.
Good morning, Simon. I'm sure you can hear me. Mr. Lesh is correct. It doesn't allow us to show our cameras at the moment.
I'm muted. Erna?
Good morning. I'm here.
I need your help. Can I phone you on the WhatsApp quickly?
Yeah, you can phone me. Not a problem. I'll put my microphone on silent.
Let me do that. Now we are showing.
Right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this very exciting webinar. Today, we are testing new technology and new modalities to reach all of you. We are very excited to have so many of you join us. And of course, not only do we have the live participants here, we also have the members who are watching via the live streams on various social media platforms. I am going to be your host today. My name is Steve Sherman, and I am the Chief Imagination Officer for an NGO. and I'm also working with these wonderful people who we have gathered today as panelists to present interesting thoughts and ideas to you throughout today's webinar. And I think it's a very auspicious occasion. I do want to make mention that I know that it might be slightly off topic, but we lost a great hero yesterday in Michael Collins. He was one of the Apollo astronauts, and I just thought I would make mention of that because he was a personal hero of mine, and being a STEAM-based seminar, I thought it would be quite important to mention that not only was he an astronaut, but he was also a very well-known artist, and he was someone who combined art and science together. But of course, you don't want to hear me ramble on. I think it is important to bring on our first speaker. We have Mr. Berson Lesh, who is the Deputy Director of Science Promotion at the Department of Science and Innovation. And he is going to explain to us what the objective of the webinar is for today. So Berson, over to you.
I hope you can hear me. Steve?
We can hear you clearly.
Good day all. Thanks, Steve. I've been asked to talk about the objectives of this webinar today. The objectives of this webinar are linked to a conference that the Department of Science and Innovation, in collaboration with various partners, are hosting in July 2021. In the past, this conference did not draw substantial participation of teachers. So today is about introducing the conference to educators and whet your appetite with the hope that more teachers will attend in July. Secondly, we hope to introduce an international speaker who will likely be back for the conference and giving you an idea of what will be happening at the conference. Thirdly, we are introducing various stakeholders involved in this space, giving you an idea of who's who in the zoo. And then lastly, we want to also give an overview of the maths and science Olympiads and competitions and science awareness in the country and the role of teachers in this space. So please feel free to engage with us. We've allocated time for questions and answers. Please enjoy the webinar. We are here to answer any questions. Back to you, Steve.
Thank you so much, Berson. Now, it does ask me to introduce all the speakers, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my political clout and decide that what I will do is when it comes to specific speakers, I will introduce them as they come on. And I would try and give our guest speaker all the way from Finland a slightly larger time frame to speak. And it gives me great pride and joy to introduce my friend, Dr. Cutoff Fessy, all the way from Finland. The topic that he's going to be talking about is embracing uncertainty, embracing hope, boosting collaborative creatives through STEAM. And I would just like to read a short little blurb about Dr. Fessy because it's important that you know the context from which he comes. Dr. Fessy is a researcher of STEAM, which is the integrated approach to science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics learning at the Finnish Institute for Educational Research at the University of Jyväskylä in Finland. I hope I said that correctly. I'm trying not to butcher anything here. He is also the Community Events Director of the Bridges organization, which is the world's largest education community for the mathematics and the arts. And they are doing incredible work where they combine mathematics and science and art together. And in 2008, he launched the Experience Workshop. And this happened to be a global STEAM network, which actively collaborated with Nelson Mandela University. our very own Nelson Mandela University, and the Open Design Festival in Cape Town in launching and running the South African Math Art Contests. And that's actually where I did get to meet Dr. Fessy in Cape Town. He is also a member of the European Academy of Sciences and Arts and a member of the European Mathematical Society's Committee for Raising Public Awareness. I think it's safe to say that Dr. Fessy is a very enthusiastic fan of mathematics and art, and I am so excited to welcome him here. And I'm going to hand over to you, Dr. Fessy. All yours.
Thank you very much, Steve Sherman, for this kind introduction. I really don't deserve that much. I'm really glad for this opportunity provided by the SASTA National Research Foundation. And I'm really enthusiastic to see how many participants are joining today. So Steve knows it well, and many of you knows it well, that I was really lucky to be a guest of this beautiful country and many wonderful teachers in South Africa in the recent years. Of course, COVID-19 blocked these great opportunities as well. So there is a sort of isolation between us, but it's probably thanks to the technology. I'm really glad to join you, at least in this way. And I can't wait the end of the pandemic that we can meet and hug each other again. So maybe I just start right away. Thank you for handing over Steve to me. So I try to share my screen. If I can get the opportunity to share my screen, could you please allow me to do it? Yes, now I'm able to do it. And yes, as you can see, the title of my talk is Embracing Uncertainty, Embracing Hope and Boosting Collaboration, Collaborative Creativities through this STEAM. So what is STEAM? STEAM is the integration between science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So I'm sure that you are here from many different subjects, many teachers, and I think the cooperation between your subjects will also help us to bring forward these collaborative aspects of creativity, especially what we experience in these critical times, which is really unprecedented, like this COVID-19 situation. So Steve already mentioned that I'm a researcher in Jyväskylä in central Finland, where also the Finnish education was born partially. This was the first university where women were also admitted as future teachers in our teacher seminar in the 19th century. So we are very proud of this, and teacher education is still our main area. So as Steve mentioned, I'm really interested in this integration between art and sciences, but not only as a researcher, but also as a practitioner. And as I mentioned, I've been really lucky to work together with wonderful South African teachers and researchers who were also eye-opening to me, not only in my research, but also in my own STEAM activities. So you can see this little excerpt of the many wonderful memories what I had in your country. I just selected a few images. So this collaboration with the Nelson Mandela University or the Open Design Festival in Cape Town, and there were a lot of opportunities to bring forward STEAM research also in connection with the African heritage. Just to mention another great friend who passed away not so long ago, so Paulus Gerdes. I think he's not needed to be introduced in these circles, but he also made a great influence on my views on STEAM STEAM and also on these topics which I'm going to talk today. So in Finland, I'm working in the Innovative Learning Environments Research Group. In this group, we are not only interested in learning environments as physical environments, but also as the mental environments of learning, how to use different tools, how to use different devices, and what are those attitudes and motivation, engagement, what makes learning joyful and also inviting and possible for all children. This is what we are looking for. And we just found that this integration between different areas can help to boost creativity and boost engagement. That's why we try to connect all those educators and all those researchers who are interested in integrating these fields. So that's why we launched STEAMnet Education Network. You are all welcome to join these initiations. So Experience Workshop is representing one of the best examples from our activities, I think, for these networking activities. So in this STEAM community, in this STEAM network, we are really looking for how to connect well-being and health related and sustainability related issues with arts and creativity and the phenomenon-based learning, which is a very unique concept, which is also play an important part of the Finnish curriculum. So how the children are learning how to apply their knowledge and how they can relate to the realities around them and real phenomenon around them. So this is our goal, to open up these connections in our educational practice. As you can see, these images, this learning by doing and hands-on learning, and also the proximity between the learners and this physical touch as well is a really important part of these events, what we are trying to bring in also in the formal context of education. But as you can know, as you know it very well, maybe even more than me, this all was lost from one day to another with this COVID-19 crisis. So you can see a STEAM model of the COVID-19 virus on my screen. So we learned more deeper and more on an existential way, what does it mean to being in an uncertain situation, being among uncertainties and replanning our life, redesigning our life in these uncertainty conditions. So we could knew this from existential philosophy and this modern mindset. We heard that it's so much influenced by this uncertainties, everything is fluid, everything is in flux. And we could also learn from 20th century science that uncertainty is also a principle in physics and in many fields, quantum mechanics as well, and in logics. So we knew it very well, but maybe we didn't learn this lesson good enough. So that's why this situation also struck us really unexpectedly. And though we were also bringing forward in our innovative educational methodologies all those methods, all these approaches in didactics, especially in learning science, so what we call inquiry-based learning, discovery-based learning, experience-oriented education, playfulness in education, though we were really putting this forward in our practice, but maybe we didn't take seriously enough this uncertainty factor in all of these approaches. And also the role of science, we can see that how many different roles we can admit to the science, and we can ask that what is the primary role of science. Of course, we are looking for answers, especially in this critical situation, but if you think about the epistemological role of science, it's really to make better and better questions, right? So to get better and better answers as we go forward in the history. So maybe it's also time to make a distinction between the psychological uncertainty, what we all feel as individuals. And of course, children are more exposed to this than anyone else on the earth, especially in this critical situation. So we must be aware of this really deep uncertainty, but we also need to make this distinction between the scientific and epistemological uncertainty, which is a natural part of scientific thinking. And I think we need to have the courage to bring this uncertainty also in the learning situation and have the courage to be uncertain about many questions around us and become learners as well together with our students and find a way of different kind of accessibilities. Of course, in Finland, the situation is very different than many other parts of the world. So we could sort of switch into the digital education in many circumstances, but still children really suffering in these conditions as well. But for example, in teacher education, our students also started to create those kind of interactive digital materials, which was possible to test even in lockdown situations. And as you can see, the competencies what are important to stress according to the Finnish curriculum are also containing those like participation, involvement, building a sustainable future, or the ICT competence, or taking care of oneself and others, and managing daily life. So we really tried to refocus all these skills and competence development goals as much as it was possible in these circumstances. We redesigned also our physical workshops. So as I mentioned, we got very interesting help from Reidun Tvarok, who is one of the most acclaimed virus geometry expert, to help us to model the coronavirus. And she told, okay, that's not so good approximation, but still we can have some information shared also in this hands-on way with the children, or in computational thinking, that how children can eat a piece of candy on a safe way, what kind of algorithmic thinking they need to wash their hands properly, and how one can identify corona symptoms. This also became a part of learning in this algorithmic thinking and computational thinking context. So this is just some examples. Or another colleague from Serbia started to model, 3D model and 3D print in the classroom these face shields, and they hand it over to the local hospital staff who are really working in the front line. So teachers in the front line and health staff in the front line really work together in many cases. And we know that this STEAM integration has been used already to help to set the mindset for this survival games and escape rooms and many different examples. So we could switch these, unfortunately, into the reality, into real conditions. And of course, hybrid learning didn't stop. It even gave opportunity to meet a lot of teachers, at least online, and run these hybrid workshops. Of course, the experiences were also hybrid, not only in the technological sense, but as you can see, this joy of learning was really what helped us, and this collaborative creativity was really helped us also to embrace hope in this situation and enjoy the learning together and being creative together, even in these very challenging circumstances. And when you ask about children, we even reached also very remote schools Maybe you heard about the International Day of Mathematics. I think there were many spots all over in Africa as well on the March 14 on Pi Day who celebrated mathematics. So we also made it into schools which were actually physically locked from outside visitors, but with the help of technology, at least we could celebrate mathematics on an experience-oriented way. So what helped us really, these creative ecologies, when we make creativity not only as one element, as one component in education, but we try to think about creativities as a framework in education, and we try to recognize multiple and diverse creativities. So we are not saying anymore creativity in a singular way, but we admit that there are many different kinds of creativities, and these need to come together on the leadership level, on the everyday learning level, and on the students level, and with the parents' connection and parents' involvement. So we really try to bring this forward, also these many open access materials what we are creating to make the school a more engaging place, more joyful place, and more accessible also those who are in greater need. So in Finnish curriculum, these approaches are very well known. And when we talked for a lot of decades about the collaborative learning, now it's also time to talk about the collaborative teaching. And I have to say that this is also something a little bit new in Finland, though we have the opportunity to do this. It's supported by the curriculum, but still there are many walls to break down in this regard. And especially when we think about technology, I was just visiting Japan not so long before the COVID outbreak started. I had the opportunity to discuss with this artificial human called Saya about sustainability related questions, but I had to find out that high tech is not everything. High tech is not enough to give the access. Maybe what we need is the high touch and these human sensibilities to give the real access to the children and everyone. And I found this is a great example from South Africa, from your country. You show now a very good example for the whole world that how to focus on connecting art with science learning. This National Math Art Competition run by the Gwanbeki Development Center in the Nelson Mandela University, I think it's a great example for this. So if you see my screen, I would like to invite you for a little exercise, for a little game. So please go to menti.com, www.menti.com. Please type this into your browser. Okay, and maybe someone can help me to type it in the chat. So www.menti.com, and put this code in the window, what you're gonna find there. So 34972226. Okay, please someone help me to put this in the chat. And please go there. Yes. Okay, now I'm gonna switch screen, and I'm looking forward to see you on this other window. Yes. Okay. So these are the codes to join, and I'm looking forward that you are joining to me. So let's see. Can you join? Okay, I don't see that people are coming in yet. Okay, yeah, I see one person is coming. So please, everybody, I try to share again this instruction screen. Maybe it will be easier for you to join. Also, you can scan this code from the screen with your mobile. So you can join with your mobile too. Scan this QR code with your mobile, or join from your browser. Okay. So there are almost 200 people in this meeting. So I think it's a little bit worth to wait more. That's why you are making it. Don't miss this. It will be fun, I promise. Okay. Let's see. Okay, there are already 11 people joined. 12. Okay, so please see your chat, www.menti.com, and the code is there as well. Let's get back to this screen. Okay, there are already 20 people. So I show these instructions again. You can scan the code. If someone has any problems with joining here, put a message in the chat. Okay, there are 35, 36 people joining, 37. Very good. Okay, let's be a bit patient. Thank you for your patience, because together we will be more exciting company to each other, I think. So who's struggling to what to do, you can scan the code on the screen with your mobile and go to this meeting, or just using your browser and go to www.menti.com and enter the code. Okay. Yes. So, okay, more people are coming in. And actually, you will see all the time on the top of the screen of this www.menti.com and using the code. And now you see an image. This image is coming from this South African math art competition organized by the Govan Mbeki Development Center in Nelson Mandela University. And my first question is, what math concepts or theories or skills would you teach based on this artwork? You can list 3 items. Okay, so you can start to just take a look at this artwork. It's called actually Pale Face. It's made by Luke Ferreira, a 9th grader from South Africa. And please list 3 math concepts or theories or skills. What would you teach based on this artwork? It's not a problem if you are not a math teacher. I think everybody can identify some math in this work. So list 3 items what started to be interesting for you when you are looking at this artwork. Okay. Okay, there are also answers coming in the chat. That's very good, but you can also try to type in based on this code. Okay, so I see that 2 and 3D shapes, geometric patterns, geometry, of course, and many answers also coming in the chat. So can you type also this in Menti? Okay. I don't know why, but I should have seen a word cloud coming in somewhere here, but for some reason it doesn't work. But don't worry, it's very good what you are doing. So you can also type in the chat, and yeah, that's very good. So let's move on to the next question. So the next question is what art concepts and theories and skills would you teach based on this artwork? Okay, so first there was maths, and then it's art. You can also use the chat if you can get access to the menti.com. I don't know what's the reason that we don't see the word cloud, but I will try to get it back for the discussion at least. So okay, so you can also use both. That those who are seeing the chat or those who can use the menti.com, you can use both to enter what kind of art concepts. Yes, many great answers. So tone, shading, contrast, depth, focal point, 3D trigonometry, lines of symmetry. Yes. Perspective. Wonderful. So you can keep on working on this. Maybe I switch back to the presentation screen just to share some background information of this artwork. So the artist, these 9th graders, wrote that the maths that I used in my artwork is both symmetry and tessellations. I also tried to use a pendulum effect to try and make my project unique from everybody else's project, but it didn't turn out how I wanted to. Therefore, I had to make a pendulum mess up a part of my artwork. The thing that makes my artwork special and unique is that I cut some of the tessellations out of the face to expose the background. This allows the face to be the center of my artwork. Though I tried to use a pendulum effect that it didn't turn out the way I was hoping for, I had to make that mess up work for my art. This is why I also think that my artwork is unique, as I tried something different and then I made the mistake part of my artwork. I choose this topic as I thought that it would expand my knowledge and would allow me to be creative and to go over and beyond. So you can see this deep reflection from the student who created this, so many thoughts and so many even references to Escher. Maybe you know about this Dutch artist, a figure in mathematics and art connections. So he had also a similar and how this failure became part of the artwork. So a lot of notions of creativity and a lot of content we can see. So maybe the only thing what we need to do is just to re-establish our education on children's interests and their unique perspective, what is also embedded in these artworks. So let me close this talk with just showing quickly some of the submissions to this math art competition. And I would like to encourage you to join this competition. It's going on, this South African math art competition. You will find it on the web. And I would like to encourage you to also involve your students and teacher colleagues into this collaborative work where these many wonderful results and many wonderful examples are born to STEAM education even today. So thank you very much for your attention. I will try to get this word cloud up to you on some point later if I manage to do it. And also, this is a closing of the talk that Steve Sherman was also joined to this conference where the creators of the PISA assessment were also stressing the role of creativity in their assessment, and they recognized the role of creativity and the importance of it, and also teachers' collaboration. So there is a hope that also the policy support will also come to make schools a more creative and more joyful place. Thank you very much for your attention, and sorry for the technical hiccups. Thank you very much.
Well, it would appear that there are many technical hiccups because my camera seems to be not working. I don't know if you can see my camera at all. And I'm also in a situation where my battery was running low and I'm here surrounded by kids, so it might be a little bit noisy. But I just thought, apart from thanking you for that outstanding presentation, I want to throw a question at you, and that is, why should we start putting creativity into the curriculums at school? You are on mute at the moment, Christoph.
Thank you for your question. And meanwhile, I am answering to you. I managed to draw up this word cloud, what you put together. So you identified very many different math concepts, and let's see also the art concepts what you managed to identify in this single work. So these were the math, and let's see if I can get the art here. Yes. So also a lot of ideas in connection with art, and you can see that how these are intertwined in these answers. I will try to save these images and share with you in some format. I think it will be interesting to see it. So, but to answer your question, I think this collaborative creativity what can bring us really forward. And there are many ways in everyday practices that how you can bring it forward. And I think you must always look is what at hand for you, and not for the obstacles that what doesn't let you to do something, but what helps to you to make more engaging your everyday practices.
So according to the World Economic Forum, creativity is going to play a very large role with regards to the skills that students are going to need for the jobs of the future. How do you think teachers should start focusing on putting creativity into their classroom?
Well, I think it's very important that you remember this Greek saying that know yourself, right? So I think it's very important to get practice in self-reflection and also explore our own interests, our own strengths, and what sometimes you don't really think of in terms of formal learning and formal teaching. It's like what are your hobbies? What's your interest? and what's your colleagues' hobbies, what you would like to chat about. And I think these fields where you become really engaged, this is a good starting point. And then you can look for that how it connects to the subject which I teach. So I think this gradual way of approaching it, it might be help to first understand your own interests, your own expectations, your own joy. And I think children will go with you if they really recognize that you are really interested in what you try to share with them, and this sharing, and also how to find the connections of the individual students on this way of joyful interest. I think that will give you the path how to do it. Of course, there are many organizational obstacles, and this require time, but at least for some minutes first, and maybe then for some special occasions, you can open up these ways to be engaging, and to have the children also get close to you.
Awesome. One of the questions that came through was from Norman, and he says that their school runs an annual science fair. And generally what happens is when these students take part in the science fair, they often opt for the engineering design scenario to solve a problem. What advice can you give them to encourage a more creative approach?
Yes, of course. I think design and engineering are should be the most creative among the most creative fields, because innovation, invention is really at the core of these activities, and also the limitations. I think an engineer really need to solve a given problem with given resources in a given time, right? So this is already a huge creative challenge, and it requires a really creative mindset. So maybe those programs which could help to bring onto the top this kind of really core engineering and designer skills, and also let the children play with these ideas, and also with some tools which are at hand in these events that would help to grow the fun factor in this festival. And I'm sure that is very engaging for many children.
Awesome. And finally, how do people get in touch with you and find out more about the Bridges program and all these STREAM workshops and these things that you are running?
Yes, so if you go to www.experienceworkshop.org, I will put this in the chat. You will find our contacts. We run a bunch of mailing groups and also Facebook groups. I'm happy if you add me as a friend. You will find my name, and I will help you to find those channels and those networks which might be very stimulating for you. So I'm looking forward to be your friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And on that note, we'd like to thank Dr. Fenny Fessy for an incredibly intuitive talk in terms of, you know, where the creativity should be sitting in education today. And I think it's a very important message to all the teachers out there that you need to take the creativity far more seriously. And of course, I think what is important is that we will make the resources accessible to all of you and all his contact details that you can get in touch. So on that note, thank you.
Thank you a lot.
That was very informative, and we will catch up very soon.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed to be here. I follow up the program. Thank you.
Excellent. And I don't need to mention, of course, Finland is one of the leading countries with regards to innovative education, and Christoph is working with some fantastic people. So I really think you should find the time to find ways to connect with him, because there's lots to learn, and I never stop learning from Christoph and all his various projects. Right, we're now going to go on to the next part, and that is we're going to ask Mrs. Erna Taljard to speak. She is going to be talking about the STEMI Community of Practice 2021. And Erna is a National Project Coordinator in SASTA's Education Division. So over to you, Erna.
Good morning, Steve, and thank you very much for that welcome. Good morning, everybody who has joined us. As you can see today, my background shows the sea, and that's where my heart is today, but we are talking from Pretoria in South Africa. And I'm now going to start to share my screen. My job today is to tell you a little bit more of our upcoming conference. And let me see if I can share my screen here with you. Right, can someone kindly confirm for me? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we see.
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to start talking about our up-and-coming conference, where we will be talking more about these interesting things that Dr. Fessy has spoken about today. And of course, we're going to twist his arm to join us again at our conference as well. So as you can see here on my screen, our conference is going to be from the 20th to the 22nd of July. So that means that you as a teacher do not have any excuse. This is during the school holidays, and we would love to see you there. So what is our conference theme for 2021? We are going to try to strengthen the impact, this is what we're going to look at, of our Olympiads and competitions through collaborations, partnerships, and cooperative opportunities. But let's have a look at what is the purpose of our conference. And it's dedicated to the advancement of STEMI through our competitions in South Africa. And we're going to try to create a community of practice. And that is why we also need you to attend our conference, because you will have a very valuable input to make there. But who are all the stakeholders that we are looking at in our conference? And as you can see on the screen, there are quite a lot, but everything that is highlighted in green is where you come into play. The learners are some of our stakeholders, you as the educators are our stakeholders, as well as our Olympiad and competition organizers. And let me also just say at this point that the conference is not just about Olympiads and competitions. It goes much wider than that, and you will see that in the topics and speakers that we've lined up for the up-and-coming conference. And we are hoping to share the program with you within the next 5 or 6 weeks, and you will then get an opportunity to see which of our sessions you would like to attend. Now, as you saw, part of our goals and aims is to create a community of practice, and I'm sure that you know what that means, that if we have a common purpose, we build trust amongst our members so that we can share knowledge, so that we develop shared practice, and in turn, it creates a collective intelligence. And of course, that then becomes an implicitly held knowledge amongst all of us. Now, just a quick background to the conference, because many of you might be hearing about this conference for the first time. In 2015, we started with a consultative forum. In other words, this conference is still very young. And then we had annual conferences from 2016 to 2019. That means basically 4 conferences. And at the end of 2019, we decided that this conference will be held every second year going forward. In other words, a biannual conference, and this one, the next one is now coming up in July. We had some very interesting guest speakers. And this year, we are going to aim to have a guest speaker per each of the 3 days. So there will be a nice surprise for you daily. So you can see in 2016, the then Minister of Science and Technology joined us. In 2017, we had the CEO of Bridge. In 2018, a former Deputy Chief Technologist from NASA. And in 2019, we even had our ex-statistician, Dr. Pali Lehotla, and most of you will know him. So this year, as I said, there's going to be some very interesting surprises as well. So what did our conference look like previously in terms of numbers? So in 2016, we had 112 delegates. It grew to 115. From there to 173. And in 2019, at our last conference, we were 241. All of these conferences were face-to-face, which would have meant that you had to travel to Gauteng or wherever we were going to hold this conference. But this year, the conference is going to be online. So that means that many more of you can join, and we are really looking forward to have you join our conference. So what is the kind of growth that we are looking for in this conference? And obviously we are aiming at an increased growth rapidly so. So we would like to profile and publish more academic papers. And going forward, you as the educators, we will also be inviting you to submit papers for our next conference in 2023, because I'm sure that there are many of you who are currently busy either with an honors or a master's or a PhD, and that could be of high value to us in this conference. Of course, we would like to have more universities to participate, more external companies, more government departments, professional bodies, and then of course, as you can see in green here, yourselves and perhaps even learner engagement during the conference. And we are open to suggestions from you as to how you and learners can get involved in this conference. And then of course, international participation. So what are our objectives for our conference? So we would like to positively contribute towards a STEMI-driven culture. We'd like to create a platform for collaborative problem solving, as we heard today already with Dr. Fessy's talk. We would like to act as a catalyst between people in different organizations and to facilitate the development of tools, and then also to assist in transforming innovative ideas and actions into benchmark practices. Now, benchmarking is quite a mouthful, but I'm convinced that we will get there. So what are the sub-themes for this year? Our sub-themes are that we would like to look at the impact, whether it's there or not, for Olympiads and competitions. What is the current reach in our country? What does it look like for our Olympiads and competitions? Are all teachers even aware of what is out there? And of course, we are looking at different opportunities with collaborations, etc., to make these competitions and Olympiads successful. And as I mentioned earlier, not just the competitions and Olympiads, it's much wider than that. So what can you expect at this conference? What kind of presentations can you expect? There will be a few academic papers. There will be non-academic papers that's based on people's experience in the field. We'll have a panel discussion or two. There will be demonstrations and perhaps a workshop or two. So that is what you can expect of this conference. And what will these different kind of things include? We've asked our speakers where possible to include technology for IR specifically. We've asked them to look to transformation and sustainability, and if and where possible, also at globalization. So that is giving you an overall idea of what you can expect of our upcoming conference. And we are really looking forward to see you there. You are welcome to take a picture of the 2 email addresses currently on the screen. And should you have any more questions going forward, kindly send us an email. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Fenny. I'm wondering if there are any questions from any of the delegates. I'm having a look here. I see that Norman made a note. He said, interesting participation numbers. He said teacher conferences in the 1980s attracted 800 plus math and science teachers over 5 days. And he's looking forward to that level of professional commitment. Do you think we're going to get that sort of commitment?
That is the one thing that we would really like. So for all of those who are attending today, kindly spread the word. At least you've got a taste today of what is to come.
And I mean, as someone that has attended these sorts of conferences, I can tell you that not only is it great for learning new skills and finding out about new initiatives and projects and expos and Olympiads and competitions that are out there, you also get to network with a lot of like-minded individuals, and that connection is where many of the new ideas are sparked, because you get to discuss these things at the venue. And because it's going to be online, we've got a couple of ideas of how we're going to be doing digital networking which we are looking forward to as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve.
So Erna, out of interest, you've been involved with this for quite a while. In your opinion, why do you think there are not a lot of teachers jumping on board Olympiads and competitions at the moment?
That's a very good question, Steve. I think many teachers might think it's going to be a lot of extra work to them, but most of the time it is actually not. But there are a few Olympiads or competitions that does take a little bit of extra work there. And I think the more the educators know about the different competitions, the more of them will join.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Erna. I really do appreciate your input there, and I'm sure that all the teachers that are listening will now know that there are so many wonderful options out there, but they must attend this conference because they're going to learn about all the extra things they did not know about. And that's one of the things about, you know, building your own knowledge and your personal mind, growth of your own mind. It's to take part in conferences, it's to learn from others, and that's how we grow as people. So thank you so much. According to the program, I believe we have an icebreaker by Mr. Steve Sherman, and I believe that happened to be me. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to post 2 links in the chat. You only have to pick one of them. So let me get the first one. Here we go. Remember, we are multitasking several things here at once. Here is our first. Okay, it's not behaving itself. Let's try it again. Let me copy that link address and test it out. I'm going to paste it in the chat. There we go. I'm going to paste one link and we'll see how many people sign in. This is an interactive whiteboard and all of you will be able to join this board so that I can actually see the work that you are doing. So let me have a look to see who is joining the whiteboard as we speak. You just have to click on the link, and as soon as you do, you will be able to join the whiteboard. I see we have a bunch of people joining the whiteboard. And while you are doing that, I'm going to share my screen and show you that I'm going to give you a mathematical task. You have got one, let's just draw it over there. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there's a slight lag and delay. Let's try it again. Maybe if I use my finger. 1, 2, 3. It works a lot better if you try that again. and this is fascinating. You see, when you're using technology and everything works beforehand, and then you test it out on the day, and then it just behaves unpredictably. Let's try it again. There's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, you've got 6 matchsticks. They are all of equal length. What I would like you to do is I would like you to arrange them in some way that you are able to create exactly 4 equilateral triangles. Now, I want to just point out, for example, a triangle that is equilateral is a triangle where all 3 sides are equal. So you've got to take these 6 and you've got to arrange them to make sure you've got 4 equilateral triangles, not less than 4, not more than 4, but equally exactly 4. And I'd love to see what you're doing. And I'm going to have a look at the grid view over here. Let's have a look to see what some of the people are doing on their whiteboards. You're welcome to start drawing on your whiteboards. Oh, I see some people are already adding in some backgrounds. I see Shoni van Rooyen has got a strategy. But now let's have a look at Shoni's answer here. Shoni has used, let's have a look. 1, 2. She might be changing things. It seems to be flashing. Not sure why it's flickering. Maybe she's deleting things. So let's look at Christoph. Christoph, I'm looking at your board and hopefully this will behave. So Christoph, remember you've got 6 matchsticks, and according to Christoph, he's used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You've got 7 matchsticks there, Christoph. So unfortunately that won't work. You're only allowed to have 6 matchsticks. I see Maloko. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got a few more than 6 matchsticks. Let's have a look at the next page. Now that's an interesting one. Nalishka, I like what you've done here. Let's just have a look at that. I'm going to join your page. Maybe it'll stop flickering if I join the page. And according to Nalishka, let's see what happens. Today we are pushing the boundaries of technology using a cell phone and all these apps. Now, Nalishka, you'll notice that these ones over here, the side ones are 1 unit, but these ones here are less than 1 unit. So maybe you've been breaking your matchsticks into pieces. You have to keep the matchsticks the same size. You can't break them into smaller pieces. So I'll give you another minute or 2 to try and work it out. Let's go back to the instructor board. And let's have a look at a few of the other attempts at making it happen. And I'm going to give you a hint. Don't be shy to use art or a visual perspective to help you get this answer. So now you have to think creatively and think about all the art that you've been seeing that Christoph was demonstrating. Is there something there that you might be able to use? I see importantly you have finished. Let's see if it's going to respond. I'm going to click on the grid view. Let's see. We're going to go back to the grid view to see what you guys have offered. Apologize for the lag. Unfortunately, I'm on my cell phone and my laptop and everything else is working off the same network. Let me maybe refresh the page. That might fix the problem. But I see a lot of you are obviously using what I would call common techniques to solve the problem. These are methods that students would use in class as well. And maybe if I can draw on an alternative board, because this one seems to be crashing. Let's have a look to see if I can open up another board. And let's go to whiteboard.chat. We had so many people join it, perhaps that's what it was struggling with. Right, I'm in the chat again. And what I'm going to try to do is I just need to try and enlarge that. There we go. And if I can move that a little bit lower down. Okay, so if I'm over here, I just need to see if I can maximize this. There we go. And I'm going to draw 1 or 2 of the solutions that come up. People often go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they go, look, I created 1, 2, 3, 4 equilateral triangles. And what is interesting is when this was presented to me in class, I had to point out to the students that if this matchstick is 1 unit long, then that means this over here is only half a unit long, which means that what we have is an isosceles triangle and not an equilateral triangle, because that's a half unit, that is a half unit, and this is a full unit. What is interesting though, and I just want to make sure that you can all see this. Are you all able to see my screen? Do I get a thumbs up, Christoph? Are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
perfect. Okay. But then one of the students came back to me and said, no, no, no. There are 4 equilateral triangles there. And I said to him, prove it to me. And he said to me, well, if you go like this, there is 1 equilateral triangle. Here is a second equilateral triangle. And if we go with the other diagonal, a third equilateral triangle and a 4th equilateral triangle like that. So what happened was everyone was looking at that image one way, and this student saw it another. And I thought, okay, there we go, we've got our answer. But then one student came to me and said, you can't solve it. I said, what do you mean you can't solve it? He says, you can't solve it. I said, of course you could solve it. There we go, there's the answer. He goes, no, I mean, and he was trying to get his words out. He said, what I mean to say is you can solve it, but in 3 dimensions. And I said, show me what you mean. So he put 1 matchstick. He actually took these pencil crowns and put them on the table. And he put the 3 like this, and he placed 1 pencil here, 1 pencil here, 1 pencil here, and he leaned them in towards the middle. So if you can imagine, you are looking at a pyramid, a triangular based pyramid from above. And you can see on this side, you've got 1 equilateral triangle. On this side here, you've got 1 equilateral triangle. Over here, you've got 1 equilateral triangle. And the base, of course, is 1 equilateral triangle. And then, of course, then students started thinking, wow, if you can do that, they started thinking, what would happen if we started doing things like this? Maybe we could make equilateral triangles if we position them correctly with the Star of David. So they started to see a whole range of new shapes and designs coming out of a very simple problem that involved matchsticks and making those triangles. So what I find interesting is that sometimes you pose a problem. Here are 6 sticks, make 4 equilateral triangles, and the kids get to interact with it. And so do the adults, just like you. And then, of course, innovative solutions start coming through. And I think this is why creativity is such an important tool that every teacher should have in the classroom. And for me, the easiest way to spark creativity is to ask questions. So what I would do is I would say, how do you do it? And then someone would show me their picture and I'd say, well, how do you see that being 4 equilateral triangles? And I give people a chance to speak simply because they might have a completely different view. And if I come in with my own perspective and I close the windows and doors and say, this is the only perspective, I'm shutting myself out to creativity. I'm closing myself off to students who think differently. And activities like this give those students an opportunity to shine. So hopefully you've had a lot of fun and you've learned something new. You can now go try this on your students and your family and your friends. And I believe that you will certainly impress them when you show them that it can be done and it really isn't as challenging as they think. And they'll be amazed that you actually managed to get it right. So what I'd like to do now is, I know we are running on time. In fact, we are doing quite well. I'm going to introduce our next speaker. I'm very excited to tell you that we have Mr. Moloko Matlala, and Moloko is the manager of SASTA's Education Division, under whom the conference and Olympiads and competitions fall. And I would like to ask him to please talk about the role of educators in STEM awareness. So over to you, Moloko.
And also to all the participants, as well as to Dr. Cutoff, Fenny. We welcome you and all the educators across the country. I have observed that we have educators in all the 9 provinces, And thanks for stimulating our thinking once more, Steve. I know you have got a lot of this type of activities that tries to stimulate the thinking of our learners. And I'm going to be very short. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share the screen. I'm going to go to the share screen and see if I can project my presentation there. Is going to be very short. But what I want to say to our educators is that you might be aware of the challenge that South Africa is faced with in terms of the number of learners taking mathematics and physical sciences. And our National Development Plan, Vision 2030, just to remind each one of us that we have put a target of 450,000 learners who must come out of grade 12 with passes in mathematics and physical sciences that allows them to follow the STEM or the STEM careers. And currently, as we speak, we are sitting around 13 plus minus 13 million learners from grade R right through to grade 12. And we have got about 550,000 learners every year sitting for the grade 12 exams. And about from that, you have got only about 200,000 learners sitting for mathematics, others sitting for physical sciences. And if you go down, drill down to say how many of these qualifies to go to the universities to do courses related to mathematics and science is much less than 200,000. I'm putting this forward to say to ourselves, there's a lot of work that we need to do as educators, especially as educators, because that is where the youth are coming from, and that's where we can be able to get the numbers we are looking for. But for me to be able to do that, I'm gonna quickly just so that you know who we are, but I'm gonna be very brief because some of us might go out here not knowing who is NRF and who is SASTA. As you can see there, you've got the Department of Science and Innovation, because that is our mother department. And then you have got a number on your left-hand side, you've got a number of NRF research facilities. It's important you know that, because you can access them to do some experiments with learners, or for you to understand concepts around science and technology. There are 5, as you can see them. And then in the middle of the diagram, you see the Research and Innovation Support and Advancement, RISA. As you know, NRF is a knowledge generation organization, and some of you are currently studying honors, masters, and PhDs. You are able to access, bursaries or funds to be able to pursue research in masters and PhDs. And then on the far right-hand side, you have got science awareness, science education, science communication. That's actually SASTA. That's where SASTA is placed. And if you go down to SASTA to say, what does SASTA, all of the ones that, if I can just quickly, sorry to go back, all these are business units of the NRF, and each has got a specific role, the research facilities in different research fields. But if you drill down to SASTA, that's where we are, and that's most your interest is at the moment, I will assume, is that we are looking at 4 key areas of deliverables: embedding engaged research, enabling public access to research and science engagement infrastructure, supporting the development of STEM education, and building science engagement capacity and capability. A lot of things that educators are doing are under the supporting the development of STEM education. However, there are elements which I will just quickly touch in a minute of each, so that you understand where you can be able to fit and be able to participate fully and get the benefit out of the whole thing. In terms of embedding engaged research, all we are saying is that researchers, scientists, mathematicians, engineers, when they do research, they need to engage the public, because most of the research is related to challenges that we as public are experiencing on a daily life. So you need to engage them They can participate in setting up research questions. They can also participate in collection of data. And when you have the results as a researcher, you can share with the communities, the educators, so that they can see how that can cascade into benefiting the immediate societies where they live in. In terms of enabling public access to research and science engagement infrastructure, these are some of the research facilities that are around in the country, where as educators, you have free access to them, like I said, also be able to do some experiments or see some of the actions of science and technology as they happen in exhibition format. And then you have got the support of STEM education, then the building of science engagement capacity and capability. As educators, we do a lot of support to educators by training, getting them in training workshops of different topics in the curriculum. In terms of the research infrastructure that I was talking about, as you can see, some of them, I didn't put all of them. You've got the CSIR there, as you can see, the Science Museum, the Itemba Labs there. This is your Itemba Labs. This is one of the science centers, with a lot of exhibits that are exhibiting, science processes and science concepts. And you have got other activities that you can engage yourself as well as learners in terms of science shows. You can also engage us to say we want to have some science shows so that learners can understand this type of a concept. Then we'll get relevant scientists to come to the school or to a specific area to come and demonstrate the understanding of that concept. As you can see there, I think it's about the earth and beyond. For those who are in primary schools, you have got exhibitions that you can access in different science centers. We have got about 34 science centers across the country that you can just take your learners or go there to use those facilities. These are part of the science education activities that I was talking about. Mainly, they are built into what we call the after-school science club. The after-school science club is actually a hub of all the extracurricular activities that we are exposing learners to. We are saying that as educators, please assist us that when the normal schooling time at 2:30 or 3 o'clock, the bell rings, learners should not be running away from the schooling grounds. Some of them, they run out and then they've got nothing to do else. And then they end up getting into drugs or end up getting into other forms of unnecessary engagement. So we want to engage the learners right through. After school, then they go to the after school science club and they get engaged there. And we ask that educators be part of the coaches and mentors. We provide training on coaching and mentoring so that they can coach them as they do different tasks as part of the extracurricular activities. As you can see there, this reminds me of what Dr. Fenny was saying in terms of allowing learners, to do innovative activities. In this case, learners can be just given a problem to say, this is the challenge, these are the types of resources you have with limited resources, and we want you to do 1, 2, 3 to solve, the problem. There you have got learners in learner camps, and there are learners, small ones, building up a project. There are learners engaged in, some Olympiads and competitions. So it's quite a number of activities where learners and educators can really benefit. But for the sake of time, I don't want to go into details, but feel free to engage any of the SASTA or NRF colleagues, even Steve, he knows a lot already of what we are doing. In terms of building capacity, I spoke about, educators becoming mentors and coaches for the extracurricular activities for Olympiads and competitions. We develop a lot of resources that are aligned to the curriculum, but for specific, areas. For an example, paleo science is one of the areas we focus on. Energy, hydrogen energy fuel, we focus on that. IKS, biodiversity and biotechnology. We look at the curriculum, pick up those topics, try to make them more relevant by making real life examples in these resources for both educators and teachers. And currently we also do placement of undergraduate at different schools. So you can be able to have a volunteer placed at a school, you know, to assist with those extracurricular activities that are happening come 2:30 or 3:00. And I said we do a lot of training workshops on educators, you know, to build their capacity. Sorry, this might not be relevant to you, but just for you to know that a lot of journalists, you don't hear a lot of news around science, engineering, and technology. And sometimes it's because that journalists are not feeling comfortable in talking about science concepts because they are not sure if they are saying that, you know, the right things. And scientists and engineers, on the other hand, they know the content, but they are not able to articulate it in a simple language for me and you, you know, people on the street to understand. So we engage the journalists, try to make them to talk about science, and we engage scientists also to be able to talk about science concepts in a more simple. And this is my second last slide as I'm finishing off, just to say to you, currently, at the moment, because of the pandemic, we started embarking a lot on the digital platforms. We have got role modeling campaigns running on Facebook. We have got career booklets that are on different websites, including the SASTA website, the DSI website. We will be running the Astro Quiz, online Astro Quiz for the first time this year in collaboration with the Nelson Mandela University, in addition to the STEAM competition that we collaborate with. There's a number of resources that Nelson Mandela, and thanks for the Nelson Mandela for coming up with these innovative ideas, both for learners and educators. And most of them are plug and play, so you don't have to have connectivity, real-time connectivity. And then we have got this STEMI community of practice webinars. Today is one of them. And we have got a lot of virtual workshops, seminar, lectures that we do for educators in collaboration with a number of higher education institutions. I'm not gonna name them all, Univen, UJ, with professional bodies such as South African Institute of Physics, SANBI, and them. So those that I didn't mention, they shouldn't say maybe we have forgotten them. But for you as educators, we are saying from all I have said, in summary, is that we are all embarking on ensuring that our society becomes a scientifically literate society. And you are in the face of these 13 million learners, and in the societies where you have got a very huge, you know, a role that you can play to ensure that we become scientifically literate, and for us to have this science awareness, because many a time, even me as a science teacher, you know, I might just be looking at the curriculum, but not much relating to it on a daily basis in the kitchen, when you're running, in your car. What science is being used there, and how can we benefit from, you know, the concepts that we are learning on a daily? Career awareness, as I've just mentioned, to make sure that more learners take maths and science to be able to reach the 450,000 target. And of course, you as educators are part of the knowledge generation, and we want you to be part of us as a knowledge generation, you know, organization. And then, of course, continuing professional development. And most of the training workshops that we do, you end up also getting the CDP points. And that's all from my side, Steve. I'm sorry if I might have, you know, went a little bit aboard, but I thought this might be helpful information for the educator. Siyabonga.
It is. Thank you so much, Moloka. And not only are you still way within budget, we're getting lots of questions here. So you can stop sharing your screen there, and maybe we can do that from the, there we go. And I'd like to read some of the questions. We have one question: does NRF postgraduate funding only start from masters upwards, and does it include honors?
Steve, for accessing the funds for postgraduates, they are done through the higher education institutions, meaning that on an annual basis, NRF has got a quota of funds that it gives to the 26 higher education institutions. So the different institutions might have different, focus areas, but what I know is that they mainly focus on the masters and PhDs. However, I cannot rule out the possibility that even at honors levels, some of the higher education institutions could be able to give funding for that, especially in the area of STEM.
I see. And then, of course, what is the cutoff age for funding for further studies?
As far as I know, there are no cutoff age.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then, of course, there was a question, will we be sharing the presentations and recording for later use? Absolutely. There will be a recording of this and we will be sharing that. Someone wants to know, how do we access this fund?
Like I say, if it is for the postgraduates, you access it at the higher education institutions. Each higher education institutions have got a certain percentage that they qualify on an annual basis for NRF research funding. Not directly to NRF nor SASTAL.
Awesome, awesome. And there was a question a little bit earlier. It was about, sorry, you sometimes coming in and out, and I thought you were finished there. Sorry about that. There was a question a little bit earlier. Let's see if I can find it here. It was about science clubs. Can you tell us a little bit more about science clubs and how schools can get involved?
Look, we have what we call third-party organizations, and these third-party organizations are made of higher education institutions, professional bodies, science councils, NGOs, etc., who are prepared to support us in establishing and supporting the after-school science clubs. And each of them have got specific provinces that they focus in. If you are a school and you are interested and you have got provincial coordinators in the 9 provinces, if you don't know them, feel free to communicate with us. We will share with you who they are. And once your school shows the interest, it will be part of the database of those schools that we are intending establishing science clubs or those that have already established science clubs.
Awesome, awesome. There was, okay, I see there's a lot of questions with regards to science Olympiads and astro quizzes and that sort of thing.
Yes,
so
I'm
going
one.
to hold that for now because I'm going to allow our next guest speaker to tackle those particular topics. All right, so let me say thank you so much, Maloko, for that very informative presentation. And you've now got the wheels turning in some of the minds. People are very interested in some of the funding and initiatives that you are involved with. And hopefully we'll get more schools involved. And at the end of the day, more students are going to benefit because that is always the end goal. So on that note, our next speaker is... Thanks, Maloko. Our next guest speaker is Mrs. Krishni Naidu. Thanks. Krishni should, I should mention that she used to be a subject advisor, so she does kind of know where a lot of you are at, especially with regards to some of the subject advisors, but she is also a colleague of mine and she is the chairperson of a STEMI. And she's going to be talking about the role of Olympiads and competitions. And for all of you who are going to ask questions about Astro Quiz and maths quizzes and expos, she is going to be the person to answer those questions. So Krishni, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Steve. While I share, I just want to say greetings to everyone, to our guest speaker, Dr. Fenny, for that very informative introductions and dealing with issues of creativity. I enjoyed it especially. Greetings to all the panelists and of course the educators that have joined us. I know, Steve, you did mention that I may have some answers to all the questions that have been raised, but let me put it this way. Perhaps I would be able to show you how you could access some of these resources to enable your learners to become more creative and participate in the whole STEM culture, or STEMI, and now it's STEAM. Okay, so my presentation is actually about STEMI, which is an umbrella body. It's an association of all the Olympiads and competitions. And if you go to the previous presentations, the issue of STEAM and creativity that Dr. Fenny spoke about, and Erna spoke about the conference and how we all fit in, and the role of teachers in the conference, and how we will be addressing Olympiads and competitions in the conference. And then Mr. Madlala mentioned a few of the challenges that we have inherent in our system and as a country as a whole. So hopefully that from my presentation, some pathways will be open. I'll be able to engage you so that you'll look at opportunities for how you, as teachers who are part of this puzzle, can assist your learners. So I'm going back to a slide that Erna projected. And as you can see, these are all the stakeholders. And one of the most important stakeholders, obviously, are educators. That's yourself. And I'll be speaking about Olympiads and competitions and all the organizers of Olympiads and competitions in the country. So the organizers of Olympiads and competitions are all grouped into an umbrella body called STEMI, the Association for Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics, and Innovation. And what STEMI is that it brings all these organizers together. It creates a forum so all the organizers can collaborate, can connect, can share ideas, and improve our practice. We could look at trends that are happening locally, how we are addressing the issues we are facing locally, and how we can be part of the whole global conversation around STEAM and STEM. So we also ensure that our Olympiads and competitions are aligned with government imperatives and policies and objectives and all the other role players in the system, like non-profit organizations and business and so forth. And of course, we provide this forum for a collective so that we all speak the language of Olympiads and competitions in a particular way. And of course, we look at issues of equity, and we are constantly aware of the differences between equity and equality, and the challenges that we've inherited from our history and how we could go forward addressing these issues. And of course, apart from equity and transformation, one of the other key things that we look at is development. What you see, your Olympiads and your competitions and your expos and your science fairs, all you see is the end result. What you don't see is all the development work that goes before that. And we are particularly interested in supporting the development work that goes before that. And that is why your role, you as one of the pieces of the puzzle, is so important for us to be able to do development for teachers and for learners to contribute to success in Olympiads and competitions. We're also interested in quality and to ensure that there is accountability amongst the Olympiads and competitions. Okay, so these are just a few words that you could associate with Olympiads and competitions. Now, basic education is that, it's basic. Now, the question we must ask ourselves is that where we want our learners to stop? As teachers, what are we doing to provide a platform for our learners to become more creative, to become problem solvers, good communicators, and you've heard words like collaboration and critical thinking, creativity. So you'll see that what I've highlighted here critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication have been identified as 21st century skills. So the question we must ask ourselves is, as educators, are we giving our learners an opportunity to practice and develop these skills? And a lot of these skills, reasoning, developing, mastering content, all of these skills are transferable. So it's not just something that it will be confined just to Olympiads and competitions. You'll be able to use these skills in other contexts as well. So these are some of the benefits of learners participating in Olympiads and competitions. And of course, Olympiads and competitions have another element where they provide a platform for your learners to communicate. And when they provide that platform, there are lots of benefits and incentives like bursaries and prizes and cash prizes and opportunities to participate in international competitions. Okay, so I did mention that our goals are as follows. At the moment, we are reaching a very small percentage of learners. We want to move beyond that. We want to extend our reach, that we're able to reach as many learners as possible. In fact, there is no reason why every learner shouldn't be participating in an Olympiad or competition. We want to increase participation, particularly females and previously disadvantaged learners and learners from quintile 1 to 3 schools. As I said before, our focus is on development. We look at preparing the learners to participate in these competitions and Olympiads. We focus on the skills that learners need. So it's not just the end result of what you see, learners going on stage and receiving a certificate or a medal for their participation in Olympiad and competition, okay? So we also focus on demystifying Olympiads and competitions. And historically, we've all sort of grown up thinking that Olympiads and competitions are for the academically advantaged learners, the learners that are the clever learners, the intelligent learners, and that is not so. That is so because we made Olympiads and competitions like that. We made it something that's exclusive, and we've made it something that is elitist, and that is what we need to break down. Olympiads and competitions shouldn't be that. It should actually be something that is fun. It should be something that engages the learners. So like Dr. Fenny mentioned, experiential learning and hands-on. And of course, the other important component is the minds-on. And how do we make that link between the hands-on and the minds-on? Now, Olympiads and competitions can bring in that very important aspect of creativity. Now, creativity is not something new. It's been there, but why are we still talking about it? It's because our education system is somehow failing to develop creativity in our learners. And then we have to provide a variety of Olympiads and competitions. Historically, we know of maths and science Olympiads, that's it. No, but there are other, and I'll show you all the different groupings. We have 5 categories of Olympiads and competitions that are part of a STEMI. We also focus on teacher development. And you're probably asking yourself, as a teacher, what is my involvement? How do I get into this Olympiads and competitions? And I'll take you through that just now. But you must know, like Edna mentioned, as a teacher, you're asking yourself, is this going to be more work for me? It actually shouldn't be. The work should be the learners. What we want you to do or we are appealing to teachers as an important part of this puzzle, is to provide opportunities for your learners, to allow your learners access, to allow us to access your learners, to give them platforms, to get them together in science clubs that you can form at your school. And there are lots and lots of resources that are already there. So you don't have to come up with science club activities. You can check with Department of Science and Innovation. You can look at Science Plaza. They have lots of resources. You can start your science club at school and bring in all the learners that are interested, not just the learners that are producing the academic results, not just them. Bring in learners that are interested. That's a start in your science clubs. And that's when you start introducing your Olympiads and competition, giving them access, because where our learners are, a lot of our learners don't have access. They're not aware. So it is only through our teachers that we can reach the many learners, the millions of thousands of learners that we have in the system. If we don't do that, we will keep Olympiads and competitions as being elitist, because only those learners who have resources at home, who have parents who have resources, who have access to internet and computers, they are the only ones who will be taking part in Olympiads and competitions. And a lot of the Olympiads and competitions are now trying to look at different ways of reaching the learners. And of course, the easiest way and the best way to reach these learners are through the teachers. So the 5 categories of organizations that we have, it's robotics, it's your research-based, like your science fairs, application-based, your computer sciences, your quiz, and paper-based, like your Olympiads and competitions. Like your Olympiads. So how can you get involved? Well, there was one question in the chat, I think it was from Elena, who said, I hope everything is all in one place for you as teachers. So yes, we put it all in one place. It's on the website, www.stemi.co.za. You can even access STEMI on Facebook, and I think on Instagram, Steve. And then you can also access STEMI through the SASTA website, www.sasta.ac.za. Now, let's look at some of the paper-based competitions that you are familiar with. These are all the competitions, some that you may be familiar with, some that you're not. And when you go to the STEMI website and you get information, you click on the brochures and it'll tell you what exactly does the South African Mathematics Olympiad. Who do they target? When is the Olympiad being held? What are the resources you can access? Who can you speak to get these resources? How can you enter your learners? Is there an entrance fee? Like I know that Living Maths Olympiad, there is no entrance fee. So you will find that a lot of these Olympiads and competitions are trying their level best to make these Olympiads and competitions accessible to all our learners. And then we have the robotics. These are some of the robotics competitions that are part of a STEMI, and we have your research-based competitions, and these are more your sort of science fairs, and including your debates and so forth. And of course, we have the quizzes. You heard of the Astro Quiz a little earlier on, and we have all those organizations that are running Astro Quizzes. And of course, we have the computer-based application side of your Olympiads and competitions. So Steve, I'm not sure if I've answered a lot of the more questions, or hopefully I've generated more questions and more interest, because that was one of my aims. But I want to just mention one issue that was raised about science fairs and learners opting for engineering projects. I think that could be a little glitch in our system, because our learners associate sort of science fairs with inventions. So what they do is they focus on a model. Now, what we're trying to do is say, don't focus on the model, you focus on the problem and how you're going to solve the problem, and then you think about the model. So a lot of our learners, well, this is what the perceptions are out there. So another thing about Olympiads and competitions is that we want to change perceptions, we want to correct perceptions. So engineering type projects or research is not just about the models. And then we must ask ourselves the question, what is the difference between an invention and innovation? They're very different. So yes, so I hope, Steve, that I've now raised more questions and stimulated some kind of debate around Olympiads and competitions. But I want to appeal to all our teachers to please go onto the STEMI website, go onto the Facebook page, and go and access everything that's there. All the Olympiads and competitions are waiting for you. They're waiting for your learners. Now, last year, and of course this year, there may not be many Olympiads and competitions that are running, but there are some, and you'll be able to find out on the website. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Krishni. I think you've just opened up a whole can of worms. Now, all of a sudden, these people are throwing questions at me. Let's have a look at the Q&A. I think that some of the questions are actually involving, how do we access, for example, the provincial coordinators lists with email addresses so we can find out about all these after-school activities and Olympiads and competitions. I do want to highly recommend that if you go to the STEMI website, not only will you see a list of all the different Olympiads categorized in different categories, but there's also a new feature we've added, which is our Google Calendar. And what we've done is we've asked all the organizers to put their dates into the Google Calendar. And if you click onto that Google Calendar, you'll be able to see what events are happening at which month, so that can help you plan to take part in the events. And remember that one thing that we've always focused on at STEMI is how to make all these Olympiads, competitions, and events accessible to all. And if money is an obstacle, then speak to the organizers. We will find a way to kick that obstacle down, because at the end of the day, we want participation. We want you to know that it's not an elitist competition to take part in a maths thing. And what happens is that when you have a competition or an expo, we start to identify talent in areas around South Africa that we never knew were there. And when you identify talent, it means you put them on the radar, and universities are looking for people like that on their radar to offer bursaries and to give support. So at the end of the day, you are doing your students a service if you enter them into these competitions, because not only are they going to grow as people, not only are they going to learn and network with people who are like-minded, they also might be noticed by the people that are looking for them and allow them future opportunities. I see that there are quite a few comments over here in terms of the expo. Someone wants to know, are you going to be doing the expo and how are you going to do that safely in the pandemic? So this is an issue that many of us are facing. How do we run these competitions that used to be face-to-face? How are we going to do them during the pandemic? So maybe, Krishna, you want to address that?
Yes, so you've heard about the Astro Quiz, which is also gone online, and definitely the expo is going to be virtual. Definitely the provincial expos. In previous years, we'd have the expos at different levels, starting at school level, at district level, at regional level, and then at the national level, which is what we call the ISF. So this year and last year, and well, of course, this year specifically, we're going to be running 9 virtual provincial expos, and all the information is there on www.exposcience.co.za, and then learners from there would be selected to go and compete in the international competition, which is actually all our national learners, and we invite other countries to participate as well. So yes, even yourself, Steve, you will also be running your activities, or you always do, online. So a lot of the Olympiads and competitions that we're able to, and that's the other thing about the pandemic, is that it tested our resilience and our ability to be agile in all kinds of contexts. And those of us that were able to, we've had to, review our resources and review how our teachers and learners and schools can access these resources. So a lot of us that were able to, and what we've done is that we've gone online. Those are the competitions that you'd be able to access online.
But now, of course, being online does mean that it's not attainable for all to take part. So we have to offer the alternative of paper at the same time as well, to make sure that everyone can feel like participation is accessible to all. But I see a whole bunch of comments here on the questions and answer. Johnny says, and I'm going to read it in the way I think that he's trying to say it. He didn't just type, "We need your presentation." It's like, we need your presentation. So I'm sure that all the presentations that have been put forward today will be available to all of you. I know that there's some contact numbers and email addresses and website addresses that you're looking for. One handy tip for all of you, if you look at the chat and you will see the bottom right-hand corner, there are 3 little dots. if you click on those 3 little dots, you can save the chat from today's Zoom call, and that allows you to access all of the conversations and the email addresses and things that have actually been put in the chat for your benefit. And then, of course, someone was asking, can we get information about these amazing competitions in a timely fashion? Yes, you can, Kwesa. You're going to go to STEMI.co.za right now, and you're going to have a look at that calendar, and you're going to have a very timely overview of exactly when all these events are happening throughout the year, and you can start planning. And then I saw another question was about, we paid for an event and something didn't happen. Well, the good news is that the contact details for the Natural Science Olympiad and those competitions, they are there on the website. Contact the contact person, and I can assure you that one thing we are priding ourselves on is that the STEMI members are making a concerted effort to communicate with you, to find innovative ways to involve you, because we want you to get involved in all these maths competitions. And yes.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to touch on one thing that was raised, because I think that we fail if we do not accept our realities. If we are sitting in our ivory towers and we want to implement something and we are not sensitive and close to what is happening on the ground, we are sure to fail. So I think that we are all very aware of the issues that we have regarding access to internet, to data. We still have areas in the country where there is no connectivity. So the Olympians and competitions are now trying to find other ways, and I can speak on behalf of Expo, where we now have a resource booklet, a short A5 printable a little booklet that you could go through with ease in very simplified language, and you should be able to photocopy it for your learners or print it for your learners, so they don't have to go online onto our website to find resources. That's the one thing. The second thing is there are other ways in which your learners can participate. They can go to an education center, they can go to a school that has these facilities and sit there and take the exam or enter the Olympiads and competitions. We have lots of volunteers and coordinators sitting out there that you can access, that can assist your learners to upload, for example, their research projects. So we have solutions, but of course, none of this is of value to anybody if we don't get our learners to participate, don't give them opportunities to participate in Olympiads and competitions.
Absolutely. And I saw another question here. Someone said, I've just checked and the available competition and maths closes today. Well, today's not over yet, so you can still take part, Nokutula, you can still take part and register. If you have a problem, do not worry. There's not only one maths competition. There is one called Living Maths, and ours is only happening in September, October of this year. So you have ample time. And of course, if any of your teachers are interested, you can have all our past papers. I will make the links available. If you go onto livingmaths.com and you look for our Olympiad, you can access all our past papers with worked solutions from grade R up to grade 9, and it is yours for the taking. We have no problem with you using it as a resource in your classroom. So if you don't make the Olympiad this year, at least you've got the resources to prepare for next year as well. Well, unless there's anything else, I'm having a look over here. I know that there are numerous requests about information with regards to what was presented today. I know that we will be saving the chats. Simon will have the chat saved. I have saved it over here as well. And if anyone would like it, just make contact with us. Simon, can you please put your contact details in the chat for all of the members to have a look at, so that if they need anything like the presentations and all these things and registration, we'll make sure that we get that information to you. I know that myself and Krishni probably can't comment on specific Olympiads and what their costs are and that type of thing, but I can tell you that you need to ask. You need to contact them and say, listen, our school does not have the money, but we want to take part. And I can assure you that we will find ways to bend over backwards to accommodate you. And that has happened with our Olympiad, and I'm sure it happens with all other Olympiads as well. Well, that brings us to the end of Krishni's presentation. And according to my information, that also brings us to the end of our program. So all that is left is for me to say thank you very much to all of you that joined us. We had almost 200 participants that were live during this event. And of course, we had many more that were watching the live stream as well. That warms the heart to know that you guys were interested in what we have to share with you. I want to also thank our very special guest, Dr. Cutoff Fenny, all the way from Finland, who has joined us from the comfort of his lounge. And it is just remarkable that, you know, while we all laugh and say, you know, oh, well, we don't laugh, but we say, you know, it's such an inconvenience that we have to stay at home and we can't do all these in-person events. It's opened up a whole new opportunity to bring international guests over the internet, and you can do this from the comfort of, I'm literally on my laptop using my cell phone hotspot, and I've got kids running around the background, and I'm still managed to facilitate a conference like this. So technology is an amazing thing if we put it to good use. If there are any of the tools that you saw Dr. Cutoff use, or that I used, or if there are any questions that you have, please, you do have Simon's email address. It is in the chat there. We would love to hear from you and find ways to work with you, because we want more students to take part in all of these competitions. And thank you of course, to
I just want to respond, because I got so many warm emotions and kindness from all of the speakers and all the attendees who were chatted me, and many of you already added me as friends on Facebook. I'm really glad for that, and thank you for this invitation. I'm absolutely blown away of these many opportunities what you collected for today to offer many possibilities to join for the teachers, and I'm really glad to be involved in all of this, and I will support as much as I can, as many ways as I can. Thank you a lot, Steve, and thank you for all the organizers and attendees for this fantastic few hours. I'm really glad to be part of this more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I can assure any single person that does connect with Dr. Cutoff, he really means what he says. He will connect with you. And he also posts the most amazing things on Facebook. They are posting such wonderful things with regards to art and technology and conferences that you can go online and watch for free. And there are just so many amazing resources. And the only way you're going to know about it is if you connect. So thank you all very much for attending. We look forward to seeing you at the conference in June and July. In July. And we ask you all to please be safe and look after yourselves, and we bid you all farewell. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve, and everyone,
Thank
and
you.
bye to all.
Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.